Hi, my name is Rajat Kumar Sharma, your leadership, behavioral, and communications coach, and I welcome you to Catalyst Leadership. In our previous episodes, we have discussed about the art and science of business storytelling in detail, the science of persuasion through business storytelling in detail. But this very episode, it is specifically for the leaders and the salespeople who have to sell, influence, persuade day in, day out. Because we know that people, they do not buy features, they do not buy specifications, they buy belief. And belief travels through narratives and stories. So if your sales pitch or your investor's deck, it sounds like a brochure, you would get a brochure-like response. And this is exactly what we're going to decode today through powerful business cases and human psychology. So practically speaking, how most of the leaders and salespeople, how they would design their sales deck or their investor's deck is that they would start with the problem, then comes the product, then comes the pricing, and then comes the competitive advantage. That's it. But a report published by Harvard Business Review, it clearly says that B2B or B2C selling, whatsoever it is not driven solely by logic or features. It is driven a lot by emotions. In fact, the very same report states that this emotional connection increases the perceived value of the product and customer loyalty as well. So people, when they have to justify a business decision, they use logic. But when they have to make a business decision, they use emotion. And that's where stories come into picture, because logic supports sale, but stories, they trigger sale. So right at this point today, I'm going to share with you this powerful sales story formula, which is a very simple structure that even a fifth standard kid can remember. You just have to implement it in the right manner. That's it. So the model is before struggle, after model. As simple as that. I'm sure you must be aware of this model. You would have seen or experienced this model. Now it's time to use it. What's before? Before means the current state of your client, the current state of your customer, the problem or any challenge that he or she is going through. Then comes the struggle part. Now, here struggle, you have already notified it in the before part, what they are going through. So struggle here means, what if they do not go for your product or your service or your solution? How they are going to struggle more is the struggle all about. So before is their current struggle that they are going through, current challenge that they are going through. Struggle signifies what if they do not go for your product, service or solution. And then comes the after part, wherein you paint the future for them. What if they go for your product or your service? What is it the future would look like for them? What would become easy and comfortable for them? How the current challenges that we have spoken about in the before part, how they get mitigated, they are met and solved forever. This is where after part comes in. So instead of saying that our software improves the productivity of your team by 18%, you can put it across like this, that 3 months ago, one of our clients, they were losing 2 hours per employee every single day in manual coordination. Now, teams were frustrated, deadlines were slipping. What our software did, it automated that workflow. And as a result of it, leaders as well as team members, they have the breathing space. They have much more time to invest in creative tasks as they had before, and the organization is flourishing better. Same story, but different impact. Same data, but very different impact. Simple, before struggle and after model. Something which Steve Jobs, the former founder of Apple, he was a master of. So when he introduced iPod, he did not say that this is a music device having 5 GB storage. No. He simply said, this brings 1,000 songs in your pocket. Not just number, the experience. What it brings to you. What happens to you as a human because of this product. 1,000 songs in your pocket. Now, at that time when iPod got introduced, it got launched, 1,000 songs in your pocket, it was a phenomenal transformation. And that's what business stories are all about. Transformational journeys. Now talking about leaders who have to influence, who have to persuade when it comes to investor pitching, especially with the startup leaders, we often see that they would load their presentations with market data and market research and forecast charts and all of it. But investors on the other side, time and again, they have repeatedly said and repeatedly underlined that we do not just invest in data. We do not just invest in market numbers or the organization's numbers. We invest in the founder's vision. We invest in organizations' credibility. We invest in the cultural change that they are trying to bring in. Something we discussed in the last episode when we talked about Airbnb's investor pitching. So, till the time they were talking about themselves as the upcoming rental business and how they want to achieve more people renting out spaces across the world, investors were not interested in them. But as soon as their narrative shifted from being a rental business model to we help people belong anywhere in the world, investors, they got swayed by that, because now they were not investing in a startup organization which is just trying to make some money through rental business. No, they were investing in the future of human travel. They were investing in the transformation of human travel that was yet to be seen. This is exactly what storytelling does when it comes to investor pitching. So data, numbers, forecast charts, they all are really important. But only then on the deck, it's going to overload the investors with too much information. So wrapping your information, wrapping your data in a narrative, in a transformation journey is highly significant for the leaders, especially the startup leaders as well. So that same before struggle after model that we discussed just a while back, please use it. Where the current situation is, what happens if people do not invest in you, and then what if they invest in you, what the future would be like. The same model applies to investor pitching as well. But at this point, I would also want to warn you with some very common mistakes that business storytellers, especially in sales and leadership roles, in investment pitches, they often make. The first one, they often make themselves the hero, which should not be the case. The client, the customer is the hero. Your story should revolve around the audience, the client, the customer that you are selling to. So, never make yourself the hero. You are the one who's helping, supporting, facilitating the hero, which is listening to the story, which is supposed to buy your product or invest in your startup through this. Second, do not exaggerate. Credibility is the oxygen in business. Trust is the most important glue that makes us stick all together. So do not lose out on the credibility for the sake of glorifying your story to a larger extent. And third, do not over dramatize. Business stories, they need clarity, not cinema. So your business story should be credible, worthy, and clear. That's it. So today I would want to close with this powerful thought for you. When you pitch with features, people compare you. But when you pitch with a story, people remember you. Sales, influencing, leadership, it's not about pushing information. It's about transferring belief. And belief gets transferred through narratives and stories. And this is exactly what we would discuss in our next episode, wherein we would see how to craft your signature leadership story, your personal brand as a leader, how to create and craft a story around it so that it influences people right from the workstation to the boardrooms. Till then, stay tuned.